Hey, Daisan here, bringing with you episode 2 of Tierlist Talk. Today I have Akane with me, and I have a bunch of other people who popped up into the Discord, Apia, Mix, and etc. Today we'll be discussing the updated tier list with the new raid unit that we get, which is Anniversary Eins, or Pimp Eins, as it will be called throughout this show. And then we also will be talking about the Anniversary Narberal and Solution, plus shifts in the tier list. Yeah, so that's it.
Damn, this discussion's been going on for ages.
Yeah.
We've had to restart twice.
No, it doesn't. It's fine. Literally, we're just gonna talk about Eins is very comparable to Albedo, right? He has the best debuffs in the game for 5 MP. He gives the all buff as well at the same time. So he just debuffs and buffs. Really good against endgame content, because normally it takes 6 MP for other units to do the same. Downside is you cannot stack all buff more than once, but I think that's fine. Besides that, we have Narberal. We put it pretty high up on SS because her damage, according to Akane, is very comparable to like the highest magic damage in the game, air quote. He can kind of follow up with any other points he wants to add onto that.
Yeah, so going on what you said, Mix, like you guys all asked like earlier about the top tier, like it should be one of individual. And going off that aspect, like unless there's another one that I'm missing out on, magic DPS, Narbe is the strongest. Unless I'm missing out on one.
In what category? Single target or AoE?
DPS. Either or, really. Overall, as a unit, in terms of single or AoE, she's so strong as a magical unit.
So she out DPSs every other DPS.
Next magic DPS on the list.
Not including Nazines, I'm assuming. That's the only one I can think of.
Yeah, no, just
Winjury's physical.
Yep.
Kurumi? Is she AoE? Magic? Physical? Who?
That's easy.
The rest, all before them, are physical.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Shizu, yeah. She's definitely better than Shizu. That's not even an argument. Single target, yeah, she can, but you have to run the aim relic, and that's to get consistency. Narbe can self buff and then get that consistency as well with that single target. Cheaper. She has a higher base attack, higher stats in general. She has an AoE skill. Yeah, that's not even comparable. Better typing.
So she'll do better even if enemy
Naz Evil Eye stack up in that list?
She'll do better than what?
Where does Naz Evil Eye stack up in the list with the single target self-buffing earth damage and area of effect earth attack?
Her costs are more, and she does less damage.
Yeah. No, but just like having an
element, right?
Another thing that I objected to before, having an SS tier DPS. Like I've always objected to that because like a DPS is a lot more situational.
PDL is neutral, so that's beautiful. I'm bleeding.
Yeah, well that's because he has like a multi-purpose 6 MP. Like that's very useful for multiple reasons.
Yeah. PDL is like the exception because he has like a high stun, bleed, AoE, big damage.
Yeah. I mean, he's got multiple things in his kit where it's like, okay, he can be an SS, but for a unit and their only thing is they have big numbers. Like that's still contingent on a lot of things. Like she
can do big damage AoE, big damage single target. She can self buff.
What if they resist
she can paralysis and overdrive. Then that's the only occasion that she wouldn't be if they resist lightning.
Then
that argument can go for any unit apart from neutral attackers.
That's why
Winjury, Katori, all of them.
I think a lot of the SS units, like they are good in any situation. There's really no situation where they're just like completely canned out, which is why it's like harder for DPS.
Tanks.
But even all those tanks, well, there's a lot of situations where they will do like even against AoE. Narufumi has stuff against AoE, like he can put shields on the team, and now Beto has like the overdrive to shield the team. So it's like none of the SS tier units have any situation where they're completely shut down. Like they always have something, and that's why they're so useful. So if you have a DPS and there's a situation where the DPS can be shut down, like, is that really SS tier? Is that really saying this is the best DPS unit in the game?
Well, PDL is the best DPS unit in the game, but magical unit, I would still say it is.
Would you really
magical and
separate
physical
that as a
is
category?
barely a difference on content, right?
Yeah.
It's not unless it's raid or unless you only have magic debuffer. It doesn't matter if it's
Like,
the best
yeah.
DPS is physical or magical.
Like, I would say, like, don't have like best magic and best physical, because outside of raid, that really doesn't matter. Like, you would also compare him, the new Narbe, to every other DPS, regardless of magic or physical, because that's effectively what you're going to be encountering him a lot of the time.
I kind of agree with Mix's point.
No, I agree with it as well, but like I still think
Like,
okay with that's such a minor thing. Like if they resist lightning, like that's one minimal thing.
Oh yeah.
And you could pull up the same argument with the tanks and be like, well, if it's AoE, yeah, they can do it, but they're not doing it as SS tier quality,
actually,
like a Yuri would.
Well, outside of Yuri being god AoE, like I still think Albedo and Alfumi are really good tanks, and even for AoE combat. It's like this is not like Zero or Darkness, where like they struggle with AoE. Like they can handle it in stride. They're not the best at their job, which is like Yuri. Like I would never deny Yuri being the best AoE tank in the game, right? Because if you do, you're dumb. But like, it's not like they're incompetent, right? It's not like they're like Zero Darkness tiers of, oh shit, AoE, what the fuck do I do, right? Origami kind of struggles against AoE too, but Origami's up there for her own reasons. Yeah.
And to sort of bring about the other DPS, so with the new Nabe attacking a single target or neutral, can she really out DPS the new Solution, who has that like 6-hit for 4 MP? And can she really out DPS Slimeco, who, like, I have to stress, like, if the unit can be poisoned, that's like a 2-turn kill. Like, she reaches crazy damage.
But then you can say the same about Narbe with paralysis.
Yeah, exactly.
And she had an overdrive.
I think the issue is, Slimeco can do her combo like with her skills on like turn.
Yeah.
While like Nabe, you need either another paralysis units or you need her OD, which Nabe doesn't set up with like 50% gauge, so she's already on the back foot on that low.
But so what I'm just raising is that like Narbe, is she really like one tier above all these other top tier attackers?
Yeah, that's why I moved her down. I think she's still a very good attacker, but like
top of S is fine, but yeah.
Also, can I say something about the best and everything? Because I do not believe PDL is the best single target.
He's not.
He's not.
He's not. It's purely like the
utility. Sometimes AoE is really good because I use Kurumi myself, the new one, and I barely ever use the ST, not only the AoE because it's much better. But I do not think that if we go on the best for each, we should definitely go with someone who does in every situation like the other ones the best single target damage. I do not think PDL is.
In this case, I justify PDL being SS tier because of like the sheer utility of his kit, and how like the 4 hits of very high damage, high stun, and the bleed, like that's always useful. And you combine that with
look at the undead at the moment.
No, it's not just damage. Like look, he's got 2 evasion. He's got like if you can get him to low health, then he becomes unkillable, and I mean unkillable. I've seen him like in Battle Arena. And even like the 4MP1 to strip buffs, like that's still useful. So like it's more like his whole kit. He has a very useful kit that's not necessarily just about damage. Like in some cases,
I don't dispute you. It's just that look at like at the current Battle Arena at the hardest, where you have just Betelgeuse 5 times at the first wave. PDL is much worse than a lot of like if it comes down to a single target, you can have the best AoE kit if you that you like. But there are characters who do a lot more single target. So if we have one with the best, we shouldn't be magic and physical, but we should instead do like when you need AoE.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is he's not there for the DPS. I was saying like his whole kit is useful. And it's not so much about he's got the best DPS. It's just like it's a very useful kit.
Like I agree that he should be an SS because of his AoE kit, but I do agree with what Thingy's saying. APM. Yeah. Because like we've just completely degraded Narbe because if oh, what if they resist lightning? Okay, what if you got to fight an enemy single target like Betelgeuse with fucking 5 lives?
I think she do
Like
good at
now we can't just bring out bias D on this, but like yeah, I get
still do good against
it's
it.
convenient, but like someone mentioned earlier that like in SS, like there's no role that they can't fill. PDL can't fill single target. So like I feel like I would agree with IPM a little bit.
It's just kind of suffering.
Yeah, exactly. But like you could technically use Narbe as a lightning unit even if they resist it, but you'll be suffering.
Like as a single target
No,
unit, he can still nuke them down with a 6 MP. It just feels kind of bad using a 6 MP.
Yeah. So no, in the case of Betelgeuse, like what you actually want to do against Betelgeuse is because he revives 5 times, but like he's got a fairly low health cap. Is that you're better off just like debuffing him and then normal attacking him down.
You know,
because
B transfers over to hit when he dies.
Yeah,
So
and poison
B
too, because I just on him.
Yeah, same thing with burn. So like technically PDL is still good.
Yeah, so what I did with Betelgeuse with like
and you are contesting the 6 MP damage with bleed to everyone else that was an S tier.
I know he's not gonna beat them, but I'm just saying that it's not like, oh no, he just loses against single target. It's just it's gonna feel worse. That's all.
I think you misunderstood my point with Narberal. Like my point with Narberal is not I want to drag down a DPS because they're DPS. It's because when I look at Narberal's kit, really all she has is like she's a lightning attacker and her numbers are high, and that's pretty much it. Whereas with like PDL, you look at him and he's like, okay, he's built to be like useful. He's built to bleed, he's built to stun, he's built to be very survivable and have high stats.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying it's kind of contradicting your point earlier about SS should only be good or like be good in any role. Like you look at them and they can fill any gaps. PDL doesn't really fill that single target gap.
I didn't say they had to be like amazing at everything. I'm just saying like
well, someone said
they're
that
generally useful. So in some cases there are units that are better than SS tier in specific cases, but like an SS tier is useful all the time. So like even at their worst, they're still useful. And I would say if you're stuck with PDL as your only DPS, he might not be the best, but he's still not bad at it. Like 9.6k attack, his AoE, like it hits the bleed, it hits multiple times, it stuns. But like he's not like bad at it. It's not shut down. It's not that he doesn't do a less damage against any resistance. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it's just like he's still useful because of his kit and not just because his numbers are high. So I feel like that general usefulness would justify him up there. But to be fair, like yeah, I wouldn't mind if you were to argue him down. But I'm just saying that I think this is different from when I was talking about Narberal.
Yeah. On a side note, you can also use his self buff, and you use that just crit attacking people down too, as a single target DPS. But like yeah, no, we're not really nitpicking about PDL about this conversation. Alright, final shakeup. I'm perfectly 100% okay with putting like Narbe at the top of S as just really good damage generally. But,
yeah.
If you really value buffer debuffers, you can put her like here, right? But like that's kind of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Yeah, solution. She's good too. Bleed damage. Single target. She just has the AoE option. That's kind of like the difference, right? Hits strong. Slime Co's good. Yuri's here. I think Katori's good. We moved Lup down. Next batch of healers that come out, Lup might go down a lot further too. She might drop to the top of A. Who knows? Maybe. Right? Speculation. We're getting 2 more really good healers. Tierlist is gonna get shaken a bit. Healers are gonna drop.
What do you mean we're getting 2 more really good healers?
So not 2 more healers. We're getting 1 more healer. I just think Aqua is coming out as well, right? So it's gonna be.
I probably just didn't check if we have any other information that I missed.
All I know is we're getting another healer.
Nothing
Nothing is set in fucking stone. Yeah.
As long as it's not another SSS tier tank.
Dude,
I agree.
If we got another SS tank, this whole tank is this. We would actually have to dive deeper into like what makes, I don't know, criteria would be different, especially depends if they have provoke or cover. It's just, oh man, I don't even want to think about it. Fuck this. I really don't want to think about another SS tank. We'll deal with it if it comes up, but if it doesn't, then we'll never speak of it again. Right? I like that. That's a good mindset. Alright.
You're good
Besides
at
that,
rating yourself. At least that's good.
alright. Let's just keep going down the rung of units. Alright, we have all the new units kind of placed. ReZero units placed. I think the tier list, a few units moved up and down based on like what we found more like utility based, like more like, oh, it's actually good because like they AoE stun or something after a certain set amount, right? So like so Nazareth Solution moved up. I'm pretty sure some other units moved up. I can't really think of like how the list shifted any crazily, right?
Beetlejuice, intimacy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no.
He actually hits quite hard.
For
with his AoE. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just the mission that I was doing, but I can't remember how hard he was hitting. But I was using him to farm like books earlier, and yeah, he was hitting pretty hard. But that's books. I can't really speak about anything else. I could test him right now for you after the raid, but like I don't really want to do it right now because of the raid.
Yeah, that's fair.
But he's actually got high ratios on his AoE. He's not really got that much attack stat though, even with intimacy. I think it's like that's not really high at all. But 77%, 100% elemental rate, pretty high. And passives increase it a bit.
Yeah, that's not bad. Not bad. Is it kind of like fluter levels of damage, but better ratios? Like
yeah,
I can't think of
the
it.
utility of a 4MP, you know.
maybe there, maybe about there.
Just try and compare them to original Eins, I would say.
It's depressing to see like Mask Eins next to Demiurge.
Yeah.
You can just compare them with base Eins.
Oh yeah, sure.
Both are AoE 5 MP AoE dark damage.
Yeah, but like even if you compare stat wise, it has more HP, like 1,000 more. Actually,
I don't make a statement. I just say that these two would be good.
Yeah, okay, 77, 100% element rate up, and then this is 70, 32. Yeah, no, you don't have the single target dark, right? But like that's not really an issue because of how.
What was the last status on elemental rate? Was it if it isn't weak to it, half of it is applied? Something.
20% 20% skill damage, 10%, 20% dark strength, and 15% speed.
The thing is, you gotta think like in terms of farming, like yes, Beetlejuice is gonna do high damage with that, but and like lower cost MP, but Ein's got a 1k more attack. Like it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's quite a lot. But I don't think he outclasses him that much. I think Beetlejuice I'd pick, to be honest. But if you're talking overall, like Eins you can use as well because he's single target is just better than Beetlejuice. But I think at this point, I think Beetlejuice is better. Personally. 77%, 100% elemental for 4 MPs.
Like
it's actually big.
Like
it's not good enough for single target content. Eins does at least damage if you AoE is only the AoE on them, on units like them, is only good for farming. You cannot expect to do a lot like PDL AoE is really good, even on New Kirumi AoE is really good on the undead. But AoEs on the level of them, same with Mask Eins, is only good for farming. I would rather rate the single target on both higher than their AoE. At least in my opinion.
I mean, the argument to that I would say is like when you're that far down in the list, I think if you're using irons as your single target, it's a bit rough.
Yeah.
Like,
BTO, man.
like I would consider irons like I don't even know what he would be classified as, like a farming unit or like an undead unit. Like,
everything
you
below
could use
A.
him more in undead than Beetlejuice, but what would he be classified as now? That's the thing. Like, I'm not comparing him
And
now. I'm just thinking
everything
about
under A is garbage, anyways.
Okay,
like,
yeah, I would agree with that.
My battle
Apart
arena
from,
with
apart from Christmas
or
and
with
yeah.
red irons as
OG
DPS.
irons is for dark element damage. Like his single target for dark element was like not bad. At the time it was good, but now it's been power crept a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 120% is actually really low.
And the element. Tuka is out there with the 150 plus 100% dark.
The new free MP like damage ratio is like 132% with a 50% elemental rate, so he's actually below average for one MP. Huh? His passives, I think, are dark percentage. I could be wrong. And speed.
So 20,
skill.
20,
dark skill.
10, 20, 50%.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, it's based off this initial number, so irons is actually like a bit higher on the damage overall.
Damage scale, yeah.
But like,
but with the element rate, would Beetlejuice actually like match irons for dark element damage? Like that's
what is it? AOE? In his AOE?
Yeah, but like with plus 100% rate, if the enemy is weak, I can imagine.
Yeah, you would. Because Beetlejuice has got 20% dark, 10%
kind of like really like. I don't know. If you talk to Fish about calculations about how elemental rate works, like he'll tell you it falls off. Yeah, like
I think everything falls off as it goes up.
Yeah.
So like evasion and down it falls off as it goes up.
Yeah, well, like kind of yeah, but it's just like elemental rate when used in like actual practice, even for like stuff like Nabe, like some of it like it will hit like. So some reasons it'll hit like higher than expected, and other times it hit like much lower than expected. So like it's really hard to calculate elemental rate and elemental strength. Well, like that was a consensus that like I've drawn by like listening to people's discussions about it and through like testing, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, we had one time we had the theory that elemental rate is only considered if the enemy is not if the enemy is either resistant or weak, but that was false. I think also our last consent was that even if the enemy is neutral, you get at least half of the rate, but most half. But that's only via testing, not via code.
Yeah, I guess that's something we want to put in because like nobody has Beetlejuice Intimacy as well because it just came out. I think for now, like where he is right now is okay because like in practical use, you would just use him as an AOE farmer, and being like one of the easiest to obtain 4MP AOE units. Like so around where Tanya and OGN makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Tanya is the same with just being an AOE unit, and that's it.
Yeah, and also like survivability and stuff. It's weird.
Nice.
Alright, was there anything else that we really want to address in this iteration?
Expert Entoma.
Yeah. So to introduce the topic, I think there was some discussion on whether the role of a raid buffer should be represented in the tier list, like specifically the best general buffer for raids.
I feel like our boy Fish does a very good thing during raids where he makes a raid tier list. I think that is where this conversation should go. Generally, it's not me shirking responsibility. I feel that by having a raid tier list that changes with each raid, it best represents the situation of raids as a whole compared to this general tier list.
Yeah, but you can, of course, DPS and stuff changes each time, and like Marinist would be never be featured high on a list, except like this is the first time. Well, she also has 50% debuff, but I cannot ever think of a situation where you wouldn't use Christmas Entoma over everyone else, where she wouldn't be part of your team unless you don't have her.
You mean in raids?
Yeah, in raids. Like that's no matter which raid you have, less is like green and immune to crit and debuffs evasion or something. so that even the aim buff is useless.
Yeah, I think like to APM's point, no matter how gimmicky raids will get, I can't see any time when having attack and crit will not be useful.
I value that a lot, 100%. It's just that like raid is just one facet of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also a small facet of the game. It's like 10%.
Yeah, like it's a really small factor, but like not only that, like this raid right now that we're doing, for example, if it didn't have like the seal chance, like if we could not seal this enemy, then Christmas Anthem would fall off because you would need someone on your team to keep the team alive and debuff. And I don't think you want to bring a buffer and a debuffer on a team.
From your buffer, isn't it?
Huh?
Unless you don't run debuffer and buffer in one, because neither Nazarick 1, your one option, or Lackeus, your other option of crit buffers, or Valkyrie do the debuff in any case.
Yeah, but that's why they're not in SS tier for raid specific unit.
That's the debuff. Just
what I think in reality should happen.
Debuffing.
What I think in reality should happen is she should go up the list personally, but I don't think she should go in SS. Like when I say go up the list, I mean pretty high up the list, like mid to high A tier. But
I'm also
that would be
just
me.
for the merit of her buff and her kit. I don't think I did go back to that. We'll just keep jumping back and forth between her. So merit of her kit, 440 speed is
that's good.
Yeah, that's really good, right? And it is kind of like the benchmark for +3 hit, +30 resistance. Yeah, it's a benchmark for enhancers, right? Lets you act first most of the time. This is kind of lacking, the 30% defense to one enemy with seal, unless you like you're doing this more for the seal than the debuff, to be honest, for 3 MP, right? And then her buff 5 MP, I still think is a bit expensive, but it's good for what it is. 100% agree with that, especially with the state of the game where enemies are just kind of harder to hit generally. I think it's actually a really good buff. Like, I think now from where her initial placement is, she like kind of should go up. I agree, but like this is due to merit of the kit, not because of raids for me. I still think that this is a wasted passive, the 30% seal resistance. That does
Overdrive gets bleed as well.
It's so bad. I mean, I use her for undead content, but even I don't have it max. It's like, woo!
Yeah.
On 80. She's actually not that bad. On this ReZero undead with all the evasion buffs and debuffs and damage checks.
Yeah, I value that. I value that.
Over Yoshino or Nazarick 1.
And I would say, even if the raid boss could not be sealed, if I had Christmas Entoma, I would still bring Christmas Entoma, and I would just swap another slot to deal with whatever gimmick the boss is going for, because like the attack and the crit, like that's very useful in a raid.
Yeah.
If we are moving on to a different topic, there was one topic I wanted to sort of bring up and just sort of open for discussion. So we're getting a lot of OD focused units, whether it be their main kit or just like a part of their kit. I think like Enri, Dursin, more recently with Anniversary Soul and with the new Eins. So
this is gonna be Sparta, by the way.
Yeah, as well. So
yeah.
Now, so far this hasn't really mattered. It's just like a bonus or just a cute thing that they have. And I think it's still that way. But Pimpines is the closest we've gotten where like having a high OD like really matters. Because if you're at OD 5 with Pimpines, you get his OD in 2 uses of the single target.
You can say the same thing. Sorry. You can make the same argument for Nazarick Battle as with the Wall of Jericho, too.
Yeah. So I don't think this will change anything right now, but I just want to sort of bring up the idea of what should we do if there's a unit where their usefulness really depends on having higher OD, like getting dupes. Like, do we sort of consider that? Do we give 2 placements for OD1 and OD5, or
no? We just put that in the general evaluation of the unit. That's it.
On that note, bringing up that topic, Spa Albedo, I think she might need to go up. Not gonna lie, if we're doing it ranked on 5 drive.
Didn't we already move her up?
No, there's no way she's that high. If you have an OD5, I wouldn't even pull for Aqua, to be honest. Personally,
Yeah, we're not
22k.
We're not basing a tier list off if you have an OD5 in the unit, or shit will shift. Shit will shift a lot.
Well, if you have an OD5 Spa Albedo, I'd probably use her as your healer, guys. Just saying. Well, me and Aku are definitely going for it when she next comes out, if she ever does.
Who you guys were on the fence on that? Like last time I heard your discussion, and now it's just like yes, okay. You guys
How much
mind
does
noted over the last couple days?
Yeah, we've realized the changes and stuff. We're thinking about getting the Luck 100 unit every raid that comes out, if it's going to be this cheap.
What do you mean this cheap? Excuse me?
Well, you got to think this is 2 wallets going into 1 account. So,
let's not talk about that. Let's just talk.
but
about
like not only that, but like Pimp Eins, like for me is about like even if Aku wasn't on the account and we were sharing it, like with the units we have right now, Pimp Eins is about 170 like pounds for me.
Yeah.
A normal if I was just summoning on like a step up banner for the unit and getting like a Luck 100 that way.
I don't know how you're getting it so cheaply.
Huh?
I still don't know how you're getting it so cheaply.
I guess because they have like whale units.
We're doing so much damage, and we're turning up to every window, and we're getting played by the medals and stuff.
300 pots, right? Even if you do the cheapest conversion, right? So it's 50 stones for 30 pots, right? So you need to spend about what 500 stones to get 300 pots, right?
And we're getting 30,000 per one.
Are you not buying the $13 pack with 150 pots?
It's not.
No, that's the one that I'm buying.
No,
we're not using stones. We're not using stones. But if I were to use stones, it'd probably even be cheaper.
No, like the stone, buying it with stones is the most efficient way of getting potions for your buck.
But otherwise,
then can't you buy the 150?
Stones, I would have gotten Marem and Aura.
Yeah, couldn't you buy from the 150 pack and then use the stones it gives you to buy more potions? So it's like
it is more valuable that way, to be fair, if you use the stones from that. Because you get an extra 30 pots anyway, and then you get 60 pots from stones. So I think I worked it out. It does actually work out better to get the pack if you're going to use stones or not. But like, think of it like this, right? So for us at the minute, it costs about 300 pots every 2-hour window. To do it from start to finish, right? We are getting between 25 to 30,000 medals every window, right? So that's about 120,000 a day.
Let's wrap up the tier list talk because I just want to finish this little video and then we can talk about raids separately.
Oh yeah, go on.
Alright, so at this moment, everyone's kind of satisfied with the placements of the units.
I haven't gotten to talk yet.
That's why. Okay, everyone's good except APM. APM, what do you want to move? Give me your reason.
Just a small complaint. I still think Rem and Saint Clem are a lot closer in power.
Rem and who?
Normal
Saint Clem.
Rem and Saint Clem.
You think they're too far apart?
Yes.
Where is
I think they're very, very comparable in what they do. Like Saint Clem is tankier, but Rem outvalues her on the long run in region per round.
I'm gonna let you guys go with that one.
We had this discussion over and over again. I mean, nobody, and I think in the end, I couldn't convince anyone of placing Saint Clem higher, but they are at least very close to each other. Even if
I don't know the numbers off by heart, but I feel like this is something that I would agree with APM on, like this topic.
Yeah,
not gonna lie.
I agreed with APM at the time. I believe.
Yeah, so 500 more HP, less defense, lot less speed.
The main difference that
What?
And both
What?
the heals are the
typing
same.
is bad.
No, yeah, the typing's bad for Clem.
Just let me present my reasoning before
Alright.
you have to everyone. Like you have Saint Clem, with more HP with the death, like pure stats wise, she's better, and you have the passives. The passives are important on this one, as the Ram passive is essentially +2 evasion and the region. Like, okay, 10% death. Woo. And meanwhile, you have on Saint Clem, you have the way damage reduction works is that every heal that doesn't go full heal is 1.15 times more effective, and every HP you give her on max HP is also 15% more effective. Like, she has a lot more tankiness than Rem on the if you disregard the region, because like, okay, 50% recovery.
That pretty much gives you the exact same efficiency, air core efficiency for heal then with recovery. Because you're saying the damage reduction makes you take less damage, so that increases the heal's efficiency. Then recovery at the same percentage does the exact same thing.
Yeah, just that. Of course, with Ram, like you don't have to put a doll on Ram. You can put like evasion on her or speed,
which I think is a lot better. In terms of like,
but Saint Clem with Saint Clem relic is so majorly much more tankier. Like every HP you stack on her, every death on her is always multiplied by 15% because of the reduction.
Yeah, but then you could also say getting hit is the best way of like reduction, because then if you don't get hit, then you just don't have to heal, right? So that's why I
would also like to bring up that Saint Clem's OD. Like, I would much rather have that overdrive on a healer.
Oh yeah.
Like when I use Saint Clem, that heal, that AoE heal has saved me.
Yeah.
When it's like single target heal is fine, except for this one turn
Yeah.
where I really need to heal everyone.
You got to think with healing as well. Majority of the time, you're using them for that main aspect of healing. Like, there are a few exceptions. Like Aqua, you could actually use her buff, like Sif mentioned, if you've got like a magical DPS on your team. Like, she's actually got a really good buff for that. Same goes for Saint Clem with the damage reduction on her buff. But like a lot of the time, healers with overdrives, I think me personally, unless it's something stupidly insane, I would prefer an AoE heal like Mari and Clem.
I think one of our issues that like we can look at is all of Rem's kits are usable.
Who's that?
Like with
Hi, Lyra.
give one ally 30% magic attack reduction for 3 turns.
Okay, bye.
One ally can have all.
I know, but like
Okay, bye.
Like you override this with like it really depends on if your tank can get the most out of this or not. Because if your tank has a skill that interferes with the passive or whatever, so I'm just saying like theoretically all of Rem's skills are usable in context, right? But then like Clem's skill is this one you just don't use. It's just a mana sink.
But you also don't really use the other skills on both healers because they are single target healers after all.
Yeah.
They are normally, at least in my experience, because my only AoE healer is base Mari, so I have to use them. Is that they are healing most of the time. I pretty much disregarded both of the other spells.
Yeah.
But I'm like, of course, the AoE magic damage and reaction buff is good on Saint Clement of 30%. Is good.
Like I feel like in the beginning of round 1, you can throw out one spell, and this is the defensive version of throwing out one spell, and this is the reduce the attack throwing out one spell. But yeah, I can imagine moving Clem higher, like or like this like the gap, like narrowing the gap, because then like if I put weight on healers, then like you could just move it at least up to here before you get to like the nukers and then burn.
And can I add to that a slight continuation of that with a much larger train of thought, and that just to say that healers should be valued higher than their DPS counterparts or tank counterparts in B tier and below. In general, because these days, like for example, you have like the healers on the bottom, because you can if you
this is being lenient.
I mean, like Mara and Yukata solution, but if you have these days, you have a lot of options for your DPS usually.
Yeah.
on nearly all accounts, but you don't have a lot of options on the healers, and every healer somehow manages to do more than DPS of the same tier. You can absolutely not do undead content with like a Seiya as your only DPS, but you can much more likely do it with Yukata, Yuri, or Base Mara.
I want to change that perspective. If you have an enhancer, tank, and like healer, and then an attacker, right? That's generally for comp. I feel like you could still run Seiya, air quote.
It would just be slower.
Yeah, like I said, that's why he's B tier. He's usable for endgame content. It's just that
And you got to think as well. Healers play they play a big part in a small part of the game, if that makes sense. Like you can still use DPS for farming. You're not using a healer for farming, which is majority of the game.
You can use any unit for farming.
Huh?
Like if you don't have a tier list for farming, as long as it costs 5 MP AoE, it should be SS tier for farming.
No, I disagree.
No, but
4 MP.
Yeah, 4 MP is the new margin for that.
Farming, we don't make a tier list around farming because
no, we don't.
It's a tier list for undead and for battle arena because those are the two where you struggle.
Betelgeuse should be down in like fucking D tier then, or C tier.
Like okay.
And every other
We're getting off topic. Let's just move back to why they're at the bottom of B tier and why they're not higher. Okay, so I think the reason that like it is where it is now, right, is because if you were to slot them in the healer slot in an undead team, the healers had to pick up more slack. Same thing with the tanks in raid. Like each role is important, but some roles are more important once you slot them in.
But some roles are more varied. Your DPS can be a lot these days. The majority of the game are either enhancers with good attack stats or attackers. We still have very few healers overall, and if you look at the percentage, same as with tanks. Any healer you have, if you have not every unit in the game or not a lot of units, is the units where you have the least variation or where you have to use a unit that is suboptimal is oftentimes the healer position or the tank position. Because DPS are a lot available, even in the base pool, even on every second unit is like an attacker. So what I just wanted to say is that if you need to use a suboptimal unit, it's most likely on your healer position and not on your DPS or on your enhancer.
This is going back to that topic that we spoke for 3 hours about before. Because you rank the tier list as though you only have a few units. We rank it as though you have every unit. Okay. And here we go. If you have every unit, right? I hate to say it, but like the healer's role is more important, right? So let's say, right, you run a team, right? You let's say for tank and like buffer debuffer purposes, you're running, Pimp Iron, fucking, I don't know, Albedo, or you're just running top tier tank, top tier buffer debuffer, right? But like we got two scenarios. You got scenario 1. The account's got a good healer, but a shitty / medium DPS. Account 2 is the opposite. They've got a good DPS, but they've got a shitty / medium tier healer. In undead content, which is healers content, if you're bringing, for example, Lup, swimsuit Lup, Marsh Shell tier, any of those 2 units, for example, this is just in bottom tier, right? I'm going to work my way up. They are not going to be able to keep your team alive. Therefore, you will not complete the undead, right? If you have a weak DPS and a strong healer, in this case, Aqua, and like vice versa, but let's say you have Aqua, she will keep your team alive, and your DPS, yeah, it might be shit. It's just going to take you a long time to do the undead.
Yeah, which is you can and with 20k HP region per second passively, isn't going to take you.
Well, yeah, I do. You've got to point out, like recent content, we've got DPS checks where it's like if you don't meet a DPS threshold, you will not clear.
Yeah.
I couldn't play 6 on that because my DPS wasn't
that would be like the exception, but that is again. So like we're talking ranking a healer over someone that can do multiple aspects of content, whereas a healer is literally undead, right? Undead content. And even when, you bring up a point that it's, what I just said there a minute ago, now we're bringing up an even smaller point that it's literally on damage checks only that a bad healer will excel over a bad DPS. So that small fraction of the game, if it ever appears again, which it will, obviously,
or you
think
can
that
do it vice
value
versa.
more than everyone else in the tier.
You can do it vice versa. Only on when the enemy does too much damage for your healer to compensate the good healer better than the bad healers.
There's
like saying that's a
you're
niche is you can make a point like that for every situation.
I was gonna say, just for like undead content, like they're all gonna do a lot of damage. Like that content's not gonna change in like the highest difficulty. Like it's not like they're gonna do less damage.
There's changed like little niches in it, like fucking this one is just HP regen and fucking regen in general. So in this aspect, yeah, having a shitty healer over a shitty DPS would be more valuable for this undead in particular, because this one literally counters it completely because they heal so much and they fucking have a DPS check turn 1. The game's crashed again, pretty much, just going slow again. Never mind.
But just to spin your example further, like if you have an account with a good healer and a medium DPS, and with a medium healer and a good DPS, you would always that's another point, but I think you don't consider you can generally don't consider it for healers. Another point, you would still always use the with the good healer because we have so few healers, which means any healer you have on an account with a medium DPS and medium healer, versus an account with 2 good DPS and no healer, you would always use the healer account because we have few healers. All healers we have are limited, nearly all, except Base Mare and
the game.
I know limitability is not a factor for you, but you always would use any healer you can get your hands on, or in any DPS you can get your hands on, because you can get your hands on a much better DPS regularly.
Okay, so you're bringing up the point about this, but really you're aiming it at Mare and Yukata solution, right?
Yeah, that was just to example because I saw that
every other healer is like
other healers are already on top of the tier. So
you're bringing up basically you want to talk about those 2 units moving up. That's what you want to say, right? Because every other healer is like
let me put it. Let me just kind of benchmark this, because we'll have a 5-minute wrap up because everyone has busy lives to do, and I have something in 5 minutes. So the reason why they're at the bottom of B tier is because I think at the top of B tier we have other healers which are much better than them, but not a tier better than them. So there is a disparity between the top healers, which is Spa Beto and Risto, and the bottom healers, which is Mare and Yukata Solution. Like, ergo, they're not a complete tier apart, but they're not as good as those 2. And that's why they're separated like that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
just it wasn't also not a direct move, but a general thought that if in B and under you would rather prefer healer over DPS.
B and under healer over DPS.
Just a question. It's fine if they stand there. Was just something that crossed my mind.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's fine. It's like I said. These are usable units for endgame content. Period. And then the top of the tier of B are more usable, but the bottom of the tier of B is less usable. And that's kind of it. That's why I started trying to define points. Alright, anyways, that about wraps up our conversation. Everyone has more things to talk about, but we can do that on episode 3 of Tierlist Talk. Thank you so much for watching this almost hour-long video. I'd like to thank our guests who appeared out of nowhere, APM and I'd like to thank my co-host for this segment, which is still Akane. And we'll see you next time. We have another discussion. More units will come out. We'll debate a lot about other points. Yeah, no, it's good. Thank you all for watching, and peace.